Boxing King Media in association with boxer Gareth. Quite an intense face-off there. What did you make of that?
I liked it. I liked the physique of Joshua as well. 250 pounds of man mounting. The Viking 249.9. You know, Joshua, I think, got into him a little bit mentally there. He was saying, "This is my show, bring it." And I think he put a lump in the throat of the Viking there and let him know that, you know, Valhalla is coming. You know, that they're going to dine in hell tomorrow night. You know, because Joshua's got to produce a performance that has to look good. He can't let Helenius get too much of a foothold in the fight. He wants to get him out of there in 6 rounds max, and I think he will.
After the Jermaine Franklin, there's a lot of criticism about Joshua's performance. Is it more imperative than ever that we see a dominant performance and a clinical performance on Saturday night?
It's most important that he wins, by whatever means, frankly. Because I know Deontay Wilder's not here tomorrow night, we've checked on that. The Deontay Wilder fight is the beginning of the top 4 heavyweights in the world, including Fury and Usyk, all having their showdowns in Saudi Arabia later in the year or early next year. So he's got to win first and foremost. Helenius was knocked out in a round with a counter right hook from Deontay Wilder. If he can make that kind of statement, fantastic. I think he'll take a couple of rounds to get in there. These two guys have sparred together before, ahead of Joshua's fight against Vladimir Klitschko in 2017. He knows him. Joshua seemed in a really, really good mindset, a really good frame of mind all week. I've enjoyed him this week. Everyone's talking good things about him. He and Derek James have got a telepathy, they've got symmetry going, and everyone's happy that he's in the right place, and he does seem to be.
Are you convinced Deontay Wilder happens next?
Yeah, absolutely. If he wins on Saturday night, the more impressive he looks, the more money he can ask for. Eddie's told me that today. The more he can ask for that top-end money, because people are going to want to see that fight. A lot of people think Wilder and Joshua is a shootout. I think Joshua can do brilliantly against Wilder, even with his boxing skills. Yes, he's going to hit you at some point, Wilder, but Joshua and Wilder, such an exhilarating thought. I favour Wilder. I'm going to be honest about it. I think he wins, but I'd love to see Anthony Joshua win. Don't get me wrong. It's a terrific fight. It's one of the big 4 fights. Joshua and Wilder, Fury and Usyk, Usyk and Wilder, Fury and Joyce, maybe another one. Joshua and Joyce, if Joyce beats Zhang.
I know this week was overshadowed by the news of Dillian Whyte's failed test. You've done a number of radio station appearances and spoken about it. It's Friday today. I know there's a confidentiality kind of clause for Eddie Hearn to speak about, but have you heard anything else, and can you update us on those findings?
No. No, it's sub judice, I think. I mean, it's very lawyered. I have not heard a tickle of what the substance is. Obviously, the people very close to it know. Probably 4 or 5 parties. They're very tight-lipped about it. Dillian Whyte, listen, we can only speculate in that sense, but Dillian Whyte said he's going to prove his innocence. So you have to give him that opportunity at the moment. We don't know what the substance is, but I imagine once fight week is over, someone will leak it at some point.
There's a lot of rumours going around on Twitter yesterday that the board have already appealed. They have 21 days to appeal the CONOR BENN hearing. Is that true? Have they appealed?
I don't know. I would need to make that phone call. I've been so busy with this fight, and like you say, with all the stuff around it, I haven't had a chance to call the board about that, or they might not even tell us whether UKAD are doing it, because they don't have a duty of care to say that they've appealed it. I don't know if you've heard this.
What's that?
Well, there's rumours going around, and I need to ring Robert Smith, and he may not even tell me, Simon Jordan obviously, that the UKAD may have appealed the CONOR BENN decision.
Well, my understanding is that it isn't just UKAD that have the ability to appeal, it's the British Boxing Board of Control. And the reasons why I want them to be very strong is because they either believe in their principles or they don't. They either bring rules in.
Liability, you're talking
over strict liability. They either believe in their own rules, which determines that the British Boxing Board of Control can license fighters and can adjudicate on the basis of choosing can recognise the testing of any recognised laboratory. I think it's existential for the British Boxing Board of Control. I think Conor, as much as I want him to be innocent, cannot get out underneath this on jurisdiction. He cannot have that as his win, and neither should Eddie want him to. He should get out from underneath based upon the medical evidence. I sat in a studio with his guys coming in saying, we've got clinical,
and the doctor,
correct,
yeah.
We've got clinical medical evidence that can prove the metabolites in his system can only have been produced by the ingestion of food and not a reaction to drugs. I want that argument to stand up. Yeah. Then, of course, the UKAD have got to look at their testing regime, because all of a sudden, first-level testing needs to be incorporated along second-level testing to make sure that when you test someone for something, you can also, perhaps, on certain substance, maybe test for the reason why it's there. Now, all of a sudden, that throws the whole regime up in the air. But it's got to be professionalised. 57 out-of-competition tests in a sport that has over 1,000 licensed fighters and God knows how many fights, is not the sport adopting it properly.
We talked about this on air today. It's great, isn't it? He's getting over cancer. You just turn the button. He's like the Energizer bunny, isn't he? We talked about this on air today, and I do think it'll come eventually. Blood passports in fight sports, because then you're just checking the blood from the beginning of the career all the way through.
We need the aspiration from the British Boxing Board of Control. We need the substance to be coming from them. We also need the integrity. It's not, I argued with Eddie in March about British Boxing Board of Control regulations. He denied that they existed. They did exist, right? And we go off on a tangent about who said what about who. Come on, this sport deserves better. It needs more investment, and if it needs the government to put legislative powers into place alongside funding from Sport England, alongside the sport compensating and fighters and the way that the British Boxing Board of Control is remunerated, whether it's with broadcast deals like the football authorities, it needs that. And then you need people at the top of the BBOC to have the stomach for it, to have the stomach for the resistance or for the
Yeah, the testing process has got to be made cheaper as well. It's got to be made cheaper, because it precludes testing all the way down the cards until people are getting to an elite level. So we don't know what they're doing in those early stages.
It's an imperfect world. It will never be squared. But I tell you something. If you've got, and this is no criticism of Robert Smith, and it's no criticism of the chairman of the British Boxing Board of Control, but there needs to be more appetite for affecting real change for the betterment of the sport, rather than maintaining the status quo that is not working. It's clearly not working. And the idea that 57 tests in a sport for out-of-competition testing is somehow something that people aren't concerned about should be more concerning. But hey,
I got to say it because he's here today. He's on fire. We have got an agenda at TalkSport. We've been doing the show all day. The agenda is boxing bigger, brighter, cleaner, and going towards the future for the sake of all the fighters.
Gareth, let me ask you, I'm paraphrasing here, Eddie Hearn said that you were just someone that's on a radio station. He has a lot of passion and zeal for boxing. Do you think we can see Simon in a different capacity in the sport of boxing?
Any other capacity other than what he's doing at the moment. Look, I jokingly, when we were here for Joshua's last fight on the 1st of April for Franklin, Simon and I have been back and forth on a few different things. I think we're very similarly minded on boxing the more I learn of Simon and the more I speak to him, to be honest. But, I mean, obviously I go about it in a different way because I'm an insider, if you like, in the sport. But no, I don't want Simon going into administration, even though I've called him the Cape Crusader, and I mean it in a good sense now. We were criticising each other before. I think Simon raises points. Once you can all, I don't think in boxing you're going to be able to change it from the inside out. I think it's got to be changed at the moment from the outside in, if you know what I mean. Because once you're within it, if you're involved promotionally, if you're involved with any of the sanctioning bodies, if you're involved in any of the
vested interest.
There's so many vested interests in the sport.
Do you agree, Simon?
Complex. I always call it the Wild West, and it is like the Wild West.
Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I think in order to affect change, you've got to have the courage of convictions. You've also got to have a degree of impartiality, almost a philanthropic outlook. I mean, that may be a slightly utopian parachute, but, this sport, football is a difficult sport. I spent a lot of money in football, and a lot of that. I regret because I'd rather have spent it in boxing. This sport is also equally as divisive and disingenuous.
The access is different though, isn't it?
And the access is different. I think that it's very easy to point your finger at what's wrong. You've got to be able to execute and deliver outcomes. And there's lots of people that have the right motivations, they just need a bit more support.
James, appreciate your time. Joshua's over there. Simon, if you want to go and see him.
He's the star. Go see him.
Well done, Simon.